Conscious and present parent? I know I do. My name is Amy Ballantyne, and I want to welcome you to Power the People Pleasers. And I'm so excited to have my guest here, Lavender. Welcome, Lav.
Thank you. It's so good to be here with you. Yay.
So Lav and I go way back. We've known each other in business for a long time, and a good friend of mine. And I'm excited because she has this incredible book series for conscious kids and this new platform that I'm excited to explore more and certainly learn more about. But before we jump into that, Lavender, have you ever been a people pleaser? And if yes, how did that show up in your life?
Yeah, juicy question. I definitely fall into two different categories. It's either people pleasing or rebel. And I'm definitely more on the side of the rebel, but I have done the people pleasing too.
Mm-hmm. And so, what's an example of you being a people pleaser if you've done that in the past?
Oh man, I think sometimes as children, we do it to please our parents or our teachers or our caregivers. I feel like in my life, it was more with a spouse or partner where I overreached in the people pleasing department to like
Yeah.
either keep the peace or maybe drag something on a little further than it was supposed to go.
Yeah.
So definitely in those instances.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting that we're here talking about being a parent. And so often in my conversations with people here on the podcast, we uncover that our people pleasing for many of us, not everyone, but many of us has stemmed from being a child. And so I would love to know, in your experience raising both conscious kids and conscious parents, right? Helping us to grow. I talk to my kids all the time about how I'm simply just growing up and I'm only just a few years ahead of them, right? So how when you think about people pleasing as it relates to the people that you coach, what what tips can you give them for helping us as parents not create more people pleasers or do a little bit less of that?
Yeah, I think that's a really juicy question and an important one. And it's cool being parents in this day and age because we get to undo a lot of the crap from previous generations that maybe wasn't serving everybody to its highest. But, everybody did the best with what they had at the time. So
Mhm.
forgive. But yeah, I think
Mm.
around the people pleasing, I think if you teach a really strong sense of self and authenticity, first by modeling it and then by encouraging it in your children, they're going to learn to be true to themselves before trying to please or be true to someone else. Because the way real integrity works is it's integrity to self first and then to someone else. You can't have integrity in any other relationship if you don't first have it with yourself. And so people pleasing falls into that conversation where if you're saying yes to someone else and no to yourself, or you're saying yes to someone else and betraying yourself and doing that, you're doing nobody a service because it's a lie from the start. Maybe
Yeah.
not intentionally, maybe your intention was good, but I think it's important to teach our kids like, if you're really trying to please someone else, what are you really truly needing that you're not giving yourself first?
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some examples of how parents can take care of themselves more so that they can be in integrity to teach that to their kids?
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And that's honestly where conscious parenting starts. It's
Mhm.
like framed nicely as like raising conscious children, but it's first being a conscious parent. Yeah, I know.
Raise ourselves. Yeah.
Where everybody like runs away. They're like, no, I didn't want to learn that. But this is where it starts. So
Yeah.
I think, being real
Mhm.
about your needs, right? Communicating that with your family, your children, your spouse, but we're talking specifically about kids. So, like with my girls, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, but I apologize if I have done something wrong. I'm also very clear if I need some space or time. Mama needs a time out so that they
Mm.
don't look at a timeout as necessarily a negative thing. It's just I need some time to recollect my own energy to be able to be present and responsible and responsive energy. So things
Mhm.
like that are really helpful. And I think just being mindful of our own triggers and owning them instead of to our children, which can happen a lot. Let's face it, parenting is the most uncertain form of leadership on the planet.
Yeah. Wow.
Don't need
Wow.
a license to do it. Just sign right up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that those are some things. It's just being really mindful, having that pause before your reaction, if you can remember to do that
Mm.
moment, and then also just asking for what you need. Hey,
Yeah.
mama needs half an hour to read her book.
Yeah.
Whatever it
Yeah.
is that you need, you know?
So interesting that we're talking about this today. I had a moment this past weekend. I think it must have been on the weekend. So with our middle daughter, and oh my goodness. Oh, it was on the weekend. It was on Saturday. And I had said to her, this was the old version of Amy coming up. I had said to her, "Are you going to change your shirt for this outing that we were going to so that you look nicer?" And oh my goodness. So, and then I go away. I had to drive to a thing for a friend, and I come back, and I had listened to this audiobook on the way, which I think is like such a great use of my time. But I had listened to this audiobook, and on the way home I realized, like, holy smokes, I literally just did the people pleaser moment with my daughter, in that I grew up hearing we have to worry what other people think of us. We have to present ourselves. We have to dress a certain way. We have to look a certain way, right? And I did it again. And I was like, "Ugh, darn
Uh,
it.
yes.
I did it again." But
Yes.
you know what I love about this podcast and this experience of talking to different people is it does keep this idea of me growing up and growing further top of mind, so that I went, and as you said, take ownership. I came back home and I went to her, and it was a quiet time. There were just the two of us somehow, and all of our family in the middle of the living room. And I just said, like, "I'm really sorry. I just realized what I did yesterday. And, like, quite honestly, you can wear whatever you want. Like, at the end of the day,
Hmm.
like, you are beautiful. You're a wonderful human. You're enough." Like,
Yeah.
right?
And
Like,
I think there's two things that happen there that's so important and beautiful. Number one is you recognizing that habit in yourself and owning
mhm,
it. And then number two is message our kids hear the most is the one that sticks. So I get a lot of parents saying, like, oh, but like, there's an ex-spouse that says this to them, or this is what they're getting from school or their friends or their peer group or whatever. As long as your message is super consistent with them,
yeah,
you can have their mistakes are normal. Like, that's another thing. Perfectionism is a form of people pleasing. We don't have to be perfect parents. We have to be real parents, which means
yeah.
when we mess up, which we're going to do because we're human, we own it to show them it's okay for them to mess up too. And we teach them how to reconcile, which is exactly
Mhm.
what you did there, which is amazing. So you're modeling the behavior and you're showing them that they don't have to be perfect. And you're saying, I caught myself in that moment. So that highlights something for them. Okay, well, this of people pleasing, which they might not learn until they're in their 30s or 40s, like we did,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
for sure.
think it's cool type of moment circle and also to have the permission to not have to be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting also, as I was thinking about our conversation today, we have this other battle, I think, as parents in our time in this moment, is that for many of us, our own parents are still a part of the picture. And how often have we heard, I know I've heard this in my own coaching practice with my clients, how often have we heard people say, "Well, I wanna do it differently than my parents. I want to raise my kids differently." And, it's so interesting, and I'd love to know your take on this when we're thinking about being a conscious, and present parent, and this idea of, doing things differently.
Yeah, I mean, got to be careful how I say this. There were a lot of examples growing up on what not to do. based on how it felt, based on what I've learned personally. So I think, like I said earlier, there's a lot of generational trauma and generational habits that we get to heal, which is a huge honor, but it also comes with a lot of mess.
Yeah. Yeah.
With partly with the work it takes for ourselves, and then partly with like the unlearning to be able to do it better. So this is nothing against our parents or previous generations. They were born and raised in a very different time. Who knows what their parents and so forth. So if you want to do something, also got to be really aware of whatever you has been programmed with from your upbringing. So like from 0 to, I want to say 7, our subconscious mind is being programmed whether we realize. And so a lot of that programming doesn't turn up until you become a parent yourself. And then we go, oh, isn't that interesting? Right. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's things happening in a parent child's dynamic, but I think the biggest one is our subconscious being brought to the surface to be healed so that it doesn't repeat with our children.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Not and I think this is a tricky conversation, right? Because our parents did the best they could.
Yeah.
Just like I honestly say this, that we are all messing up our children in a unique and special way.
We are.
That's
And when
like
our
my
kids,
praise.
yeah, when our kids are adults, they're going to be like, hey, here's all the ways
Yeah,
my mom
look what
screwed up. Yeah.
like
Fully aware of that. Yes.
I think that's the challenge with
Yeah.
being conscious as a parent and present as a parent is I'm getting quicker at realizing where I am beautifully and specially messing up my own kids. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah. But I mean, I think the cool part is being able to heal things in ourselves while modeling for our kids. I think that's what it always will come back to. And I think that if we do that, then our children will do that with their children and so on and so forth. And, you know, maybe we'll get cut a little break when it comes to them being in adulthood.
Maybe. Good luck with that,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Um, can you talk a little bit about like, so what are 1 or 2 things that you help your clients with when it comes to healing those challenges?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, like, for the record, by the way, I have 2 daughters, one who's preteen, almost teen, one who's 8 and sassier than the sassiest sass I've ever seen. So I use all of these practices within our household as well. This is not just me talking the talk, it's also walking the walk. And what I teach parents to do is to have what I call an energetic toolkit to help not only themselves, but their kids in those moments of trigger or those moments of people pleasing or those moments of getting away from our truest self, right? And so there's a slew of things that are on that the energetic toolkit list. Some of my favorites are affirmations. Now these can be things, qualities that we see in ourselves or qualities that we intend to embody. I am calm, I am peace, I am love. Just bringing us back to our true nature and our true connection to self. I love, there's so many tools. Walking, nature's a big one. We are nature. And I feel like kids especially are so intuitive and so connected. They haven't broken that connection to nature that a lot of adults have.
Yeah.
I think that's an incredible energetic tool. Just get outside. Seriously. Like it doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter if you're like walking in the sand by the ocean, which is ideal. You can just go for a little forest walk. You can go for a walk around the block. Just getting outside and that change of energetic, it makes a world of difference for my children. Meditation or body scans are beautiful. And if that's not something that you've ever practiced, either personally or in your household, I would start with just a really simple body scan. So sit or lie down, you close your eyes, you take some beautiful cleansing deep breaths, and you feel into each part of your body with each new breath. And sometimes that helps identify where a feeling or where a trigger is actually in our physical body too, which can help to release it. There's a whole ton. I could spend hours and hours talking about the energetic toolkit, but those are just a few that I really, really love and I find instantly effective and shifts things in terms of energy, in terms of focus, in terms of intention, in terms of bringing everybody to self.
Amazing. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And resort like strategies that are very practical that people can use right now, which I love. You and I have been connected through wellness for many, many years, and I'm so curious for the people who are new to you, they've not met Lavender yet. How did these books come to be? Right? I know you're a mom, but like
Yeah.
all of a sudden there's these beautiful books that you have and this platform around conscious parenting. How did this come to be?
Yeah. I love that question, actually. It's three fold. Number one is my
Mhm.
background in wellness, and more recently, a very specific focus on mental health and mental wellness.
Mhm.
Really been a passion of mine forever and ever and ever. Initially as a self practice, and then eventually as an entrepreneur in the wellness space. Then, number two, when I had my first daughter, I feel like one of the three books has been on my heart for a good 12 years. And it just took a
Wow.
little to do it. We've had that conversation. And
Yeah.
then number three is seeing the damage that the recent pandemic had on our
Mm.
children, the impact, especially around mental health, especially around people pleasing to a degree, their network and their close people. There was, lots of conversations happening around that, but I think we're just starting to see the mental health fallout from that now. And I think that we're going to see more and more of it. And so the real reason I wrote the books with the urgency that I did, like who writes books during a pandemic? I do, is to support in their sense of self, grounded in love, not fear, grounded in who they truly are, so that they can make decisions from that space too. And also for just a sense of peace and calm, like quite simply put.
Mhm.
These are a really simple tool that any and every family can use to stay in that beautiful sense of connected to each other. Because when we're grounded, we're much more pleasant to be around too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. And how much did your girls were they participating in the writing, or was it simply, like an action through your own heart?
So it's a bit of both. They're all things that we use in conversations that we have daily. So my first book is called I Am. It's a collection of affirmations. My second book is Today I Ate the Rainbow Station Every Day. Okay, if you ate red and blue with breakfast, what are you going to have with lunch or dinner to make sure that you get a full spectrum of healthy, beautiful foods to fuel your body? And then
Yes.
number three, this one I feel like is for both my girls, but especially my little feisty one, is called Feel Better, My Love. And it is about big feelings in little bodies and how to have that conversation, especially when maybe the feelings aren't always good feelings, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we use them in our house all day, every day. It's an
I wanna
easy
dig into
tool,
that one. Big
right?
feelings. So what's one example of how you're teaching through these books to help these children experience their big feelings?
Yeah, I mean, I do courses for parents and families, and then I also do interactive workshops for kids. And the workshops for kids
Awesome.
are part book reading, so they get to actually see and experience the books and illustrations. And then part, we do some of the things from the energetic toolkit that I teach, so that they get to actually feel what it feels like to feel grounded, to feel into their bodies, to accept whatever their body is telling them in that moment as well. And then, to integrate those things into their daily practice. And it's always so much fun. I just did a really cool one out in Halliburton a couple weekends ago. And it's always so like, I just adore the response from the kids because it's always so honest.
Yes, that's what you
So
get.
it's amazing, honestly, and I encourage it. I love it. And yeah, you were asking about, my children participating with the books and stuff too. I mean, they were the inspiration, but they were also like they would rush home from school every day to like see the illustrations and,
Mm.
oh, can you do this one for that? So they're equal parts of the whole process for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome. That's well, and I think it's really a beautiful thing for our children to see us stretching ourselves to new things, new goals, new avenues in our life, right? For them to
absolutely.
see that they have the ability to go after what they want, which I
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
So, as we wrap up our conversation today around becoming a present and conscious parent, there are a couple of tips or things that you'd like to leave the listeners with.
Yeah, I mean, intention is everything, right? So lead with your intention, lead with your heart. And when we know better, we get to do better. So also don't be hard on yourself if things weren't perfect all along. We're not supposed to be perfect, we're supposed to be real.
Yeah.
And, I think in a lot of cases, let your child lead or guide you towards either what they want, what they're feeling, what they don't want. It's supposed to be an interactive relationship, healing process, all of those things. So I think those things are key to remember. And, build your own energetic toolkit, figure out what works for you and your household and use it daily.
I love that. I love that. Such
Thank
great
you.
messages. And I want to wrap up with one more question, one final question. You've
Yeah,
got these two beautiful girls in your life.
I do.
What are each of them meant to teach you, do you believe?
Ooh, so I talk about this a lot actually, and it's never fails to amaze me. So I believe Winslow, my older daughter, she's almost 13, came into my life to show me my strength, to show me my power, creative power, power as a
Mm,
woman, as a mother. Creative also applies to being an entrepreneur. You're creating in your business. I feel like
yeah.
Winslow came to show me my power. And I feel like Berkeley, in a very interesting flip side, came to show my softness, my ability to struggle and still make it, my whoo, it was tough, man, but I wouldn't change it for the world, for the world. And so
Yeah.
it was equal parts like my power and my, not my pain, but my weakness, which
Mm.
isn't necessarily a weakness, maybe just more the feminine, soft underbelly side
Mm.
of things, which was very cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I really love bringing this to the attention of individuals because not everyone thinks like that, right? Of the idea that our kids are meant to teach us, just like we're teaching them lots and lots of things. And there's a beautiful gift I feel when we can look through that lens and see, okay, this is a moment for
Yeah.
me to learn,
Yes.
for me to be
Oh,
present and really learn about my own self.
is it ever? Is it ever? Yes. I love that question, actually. It's beautiful.
Amazing. So I would love to share for those listening, get these books. They're at consciouskids.ca. You can
Yeah.
and get all three at once right on that beautiful website of yours.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're
And
sold as a
people can
set.
find you online everywhere at Lavender Morantz, right?
Correct. That's me.
Amazing. And I want to thank you once again for being on the podcast. It was so lovely to have you here today.
Oh, beautiful friend. I so appreciate you.
Thank you, my friend. So, and thank you to all of my listeners here for tuning in yet again to Power to the People Pleasers. And please stay tuned for our next episode coming soon.